the world but has no role at home. The conviction that there's no use in being a token or a symbolic opposition, instead that you want to win, that you're there to win, and that you have no respect whatsoever for the regime that is crooks and thieves. I mean, that just moral clarity and that sort of square-shouldered willingness to face the world and to ignore the consequences and to do what's right anyway. I just feel like, you know, given what so many countries in the world, including our own, are facing in terms of this, the challenges to democracy, the rise of authoritarianism, to look at Navalny and look at Yulia Navalny and look at them and see what it means to have moral clarity and strength and that kind of leadership. It's not just inspiring, it is very practically instructive. And I just hope that we could ever have a class of Americans that strong, that brave, that effective, and that just unafraid in the face of the worst. I hope we never need it, but we're going to have to learn from them if we do.
Rachel, thank you so much for showing us tonight what that looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Lawrence.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you. Well, with 15 days until Election Day and more than 14 million early votes already submitted, Donald Trump decided yesterday was the perfect day to highlight the peculiar biographical fact that he has never worked a day in his life. Donald McDonald made a special appearance at a completely rigged photo op version of a McDonald's drive-thru in which the customers were actually just posing as customers, having been pre-selected and pre-screened by the Secret Service to take their positions in the drive-thru line of a McDonald's that was actually completely closed down. Just so Donald Trump could pretend, for once in his life, for a few minutes, pretend to work for a living, the way Kamala Harris once did when she was working her way through school at McDonald's, just like her husband, Doug Emhoff, worked his way through school at McDonald's.
At any point in your life, have you served 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, working at a McDonald's? Yes or no? That's it.
I have.
The McDonald's that Donald McDonald closed down yesterday so that he could pretend to work is in Pennsylvania, of course, a crucial electoral college swing state where Vice President Kamala Harris began her day campaigning with Republican Liz Cheney.
In this election, and especially here in Pennsylvania, we have the opportunity to tell the whole world who we are. And we have the chance to say, you know, we're going to reject cruelty. We're going to reject the kind of vile vitriol that we've seen from Donald Trump. We're going to reject the misogyny that we've seen from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And we have the chance in this race to elect somebody who you know is going to defend the rule of law. You know Vice President Harris is going to defend our Constitution. We have the chance to remind people that we are a good country. We are a good and honorable people. We are a great nation. And in this race, we have the opportunity to vote for and support somebody you can count on. We're not always going to agree, but I know Vice President Harris will always do what she believes is right for this country. She has a sincere heart, and that's why I'm honored to be here and supporting her in this race.
That discussion was moderated by our first guest tonight, Sarah Longwell. The latest Washington Post poll shows Kamala Harris at 49 in Pennsylvania to Donald Trump's 47. The same poll shows Kamala Harris at 49 in Michigan and Donald Trump at 47 there. Michigan was the next stop today on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney.
You know, everybody I talk to says, you know, I have to turn off the news. I can't read anything. I'm meditating. I'm doing yoga. I'm so anxious. I just don't even know. I'm eating gummies, all kinds of things, you know. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Not eating gummies.
Okay, we got that clear. But how do you, how do you handle this, the anxiety, the stress, the turmoil? Everybody's freaked out. I talked to the gentleman up there. He's like, I'm so scared. A woman's like, I'm so anxious. I can't sleep. Do you sleep?
You know, I wake up in the middle of the night usually these days, so to be honest with you, but I work out every morning. I think that's really important to just kind of, you know, mind, body, and spirit. But let me just say this.
No, say more about that.
But
say more.
I will. I work out. I try to eat well. You know, I love my family, and I make sure that I talk to the kids and my husband every day. Doug and I have been kind of, traveling. We're trying to cover a lot of ground, so we're not with each other every day these days. But my family grounds me in every way. But if I can just speak to what people are feeling. We cannot despair. We cannot despair. You know, the nature of a democracy is such that I think there's a duality. On the one hand, there's an incredible strength when our democracy is intact. An incredible strength in what it does to protect the freedoms and rights of its people. Oh, there's great strength in that. And it is very fragile. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And so that's the moment we're in. And I say do not despair, because in a democracy, as long as we can keep it in our democracy, the people, every individual has the power to make a decision about what this will be. And so let's not feel powerless. Let's not let and I get it, overwhelming nature of this all make us feel powerless, because then we have been defeated. And that's not our character as the American people. We are not one to be defeated. We rise to a moment, and we stand on broad shoulders of people who have fought this fight before for our country. And in many ways, let us look at the challenge then that we are being presented and not be overwhelmed by it. The baton is now in our hands to fight for, not against, but for this country we love. That's what we have the power to do. So let's own that. Dare I say, be joyful in what we will do in the process of owning that, which is knowing that we can and will build community and coalitions and remind people that we're all in this together. Let's not let the overwhelming nature of this strip us of our strength. That's how I feel about this. You know? That's how I feel about this.
In Wisconsin, the Washington Post poll shows Kamala Harris at 50 and Donald Trump at 47. Wisconsin was the final stop on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney tonight.
And again, most recently, the report is that the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a decorated general, said of Donald Trump that he is fascist to the core. These are the people who know him best, people who worked with him. And so, yes, we can talk about that moment on stage of the music and all that, but I think it's very important that we acknowledge, and I've said publicly, Donald Trump is an unserious man. And the consequences of him ever being president of the United States again are brutally serious.
America's safety and security depends upon America leading, and it depends upon allies. Yeah. And when you have someone who is erratic and chaotic and unstable, that puts all of us at risk. I tell people often, you know, I spend a lot of time working on national security issues, and when people that I know in the Republican Party tell me they might be considering voting for Trump from a national security perspective, I ask them, go look at his national security policies. Please go look at them, because what he's proposing in terms of withdrawing from NATO, welcoming Vladimir Putin to attack our NATO allies, praising, he praises Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, and President Xi of China, and Putin of Russia. And if you listen to him, he doesn't just praise those people generally. He praises them for their cruelty, for their tyranny. That's not who we are as a nation. It's not who we are. And the world needs us to be better, and our own security and our own freedom requires that we have a president who understands America has to lead, and that our strength comes both from our greatness and also from our goodness. And that's Vice President Harris.
The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget released a report today saying that Donald Trump's tax proposals and budget proposals would leave Social Security facing insolvency in just 6 years. Vice President Harris responded to that news in Michigan.
The other issue that has come up recently has been the issue of what we are seeing again about Donald Trump just being frankly hostile to the whole notion and importance of Social Security. There are many seniors in our country that Social Security is their only form of income. And now an independent agency has reviewed Donald Trump's theory about Social Security and his policies, and has indicated that his policy would actually render the Social Security fund empty, essentially, in 6 years. Again, if you look at it from minimum wage to Social Security, Donald Trump clearly does not understand the needs of working people.
Donald Trump is, of course, running for president as a way of staying out of jail. He is facing sentencing next month in New York City for convictions he's already been found guilty of this year in a courtroom in New York. A panel of former Trump voters in Nevada, moderated by our first guest tonight, seems to have figured out what the Trump campaign is all about.
I think he's running for himself to keep himself out of jail. He's a convicted felon. I don't trust him. I don't believe he respects the Constitution. And he will come in and he will change as much as he can. And I worry we'll become a dictatorship in the United States.
She snagged that dictatorship word from me right before I was going to use it. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to pass a thing where he can stay president for the rest of his life.
Donald Trump has spent more time publicly discussing his penis and the penises of other men he admires than any other presidential candidate in history. The total amount of time every other presidential candidate in history has spent on either one of those subjects is 0. The first time he ran for president, Donald Trump repeatedly referred to, in his vocabulary-challenged way, his penis, after Marco Rubio said this.
He's always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me. He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them.
I have to say this. He hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small.